Being Victoria Hamilton's daughter was never simple. Every move I made, every breath I took, was scrutinized under a microscope of expectations. My father, the formidable CEO of Hamilton Industries, had mapped out my future long before I could spell my own name. "Charlotte, darling," he'd say, smoothing the lapel of his immaculate Armani suit. "A Hamilton never settles for second best." Our sprawling Beverly Hills mansion, 28 rooms of art, marble, and designer opulence, stood as a monument to that creed. But to me, it was less a home and more a gilded prison. By the age of 25, I had followed his blueprint with surgical precision: a Harvard Business School diploma, a junior executive position at Hamilton Industries, and a glittering engagement to Bradley Winchester II, heir to Winchester Technologies, and my father's handpicked future son-in-law. There was just one complication: I was madly, irreversibly in love with someone else. James Mitchell entered my life on a rainy Tuesday when my Ferrari sputtered to a halt on the Pacific Coast Highway. He arrived in a rusting tow truck, his smile warm despite the downpour. "Timing belt's gone," he said, wiping oil-streaked hands on his jeans. "I can fix it, but it'll take a while." Something about his easy confidence and unassuming honesty made me hesitate before calling an Uber. Instead, I followed him to his modest garage and waited over lukewarm coffee from a vending machine. That decision changed everything. James wasn't just a mechanic. He'd put himself through engineering school, graduating top of his class, but had chosen the garage over a corporate cubicle. He liked building things, solving real problems with his hands and his heart. "Life's too short to waste on appearances," he said, eyes twinkling over chipped ceramic mugs. His words struck a chord buried deep in my soul, a truth I'd never dared to say aloud. One coffee turned into two, then dinner, then stolen evenings where I could breathe, laugh, and be someone other than Victoria Hamilton's daughter or Bradley Winchester's fiancée. James never tried to dazzle me with wealth. He didn't need to. He gave me the gift of simplicity, moonlit drives, shared secrets, and joy without pretense. For 6 months, I lived a life split down the middle, polished socialite by day, my true self by night, but the illusion couldn't last. The breaking point came at yet another glittering gala in our mansion. Bradley droned on about quarterly growth metrics while my mother paraded me like a show pony. "Charlotte will take over East Coast operations after the wedding," she announced to a circle of socialites. "The Winchesters and Hamiltons, it's the perfect match." The room spun. I excused myself and slipped into the garden, hands trembling as I called James. "I can't do this anymore," I whispered through tears. "I can't marry him. I can't live their life." He was quiet for a long moment. Then don't. "Be who you are, Charlotte, that's who I love." That night, everything changed. The next morning, I walked into my father's office, heart pounding. "Daddy," I said, voice wavering, "I can't marry Bradley. I'm in love with someone else." The explosion was immediate. He turned crimson, eyes bulging as I told him about James, about wanting more than the life he scripted for me. "A mechanic?" he roared, slamming his fist on the desk. "You're a Hamilton, not some garage girl." "He's an engineer, and he's brilliant," I said firmly. "You'd see that if you gave him a chance." "There's nothing to see. You'll marry Bradley as planned, or lose everything: your trust fund, your job, your name, understood?" I stood tall, a tremor in my spine but steel in my voice. Crystal clear. Goodbye. Leaving that house was the hardest thing I'd ever done. My mother's sobs echoed down the marble halls. My father's rage ricocheted off the walls, but I packed a small bag and walked out, into the unknown. James was waiting outside his apartment, worry etched on his face. When I told him what I'd done, he shook his head. "Charlotte, that's your whole life. You don't have to give it up for me." I kissed him gently. "I'm not giving up my life, I'm finally living it." The months that followed weren't easy. I swapped penthouses for a modest apartment, 5-star dining for takeout, and designer wardrobes for a business casual budget. I started at the bottom as a junior consultant in a small firm. My parents retaliated, cutting me off financially, trying to sabotage my new career. But through every storm, James stood beside me. And when we finally decided to get married, we planned a small wedding in a quiet neighborhood park. No designer gown, no glossy magazine spread, just us, the people we loved, and the sky overhead. That morning, a message from my mother lit up my phone. "Your father and I will be attending. One last chance to fix this mistake." I showed it to James. He gently squeezed my hand. "It's your call, love, whatever you want." And the truth was, I wanted them there. No matter how strained things had become, they were still my parents. When I walked down our makeshift aisle in a simple white dress I'd bought on sale, the first person I saw was my father. He stood stiffly at the edge of the crowd, wearing a look like he'd just bitten into something rotten. My mother dabbed her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, but neither moved an inch. They stayed on the sidelines, silent spectators to a ceremony they clearly didn't believe in. During the reception, a laid-back barbecue with laughter, music, and folding chairs, my parents made their final move. "Charlotte, darling," my mother said, voice tight with urgency, "it's not too late. Bradley would still take you back. Do you really want to throw your future away for this?" As always, my father didn't bother sugarcoating it. "This is your last chance. Marry this man, and you forfeit everything, your inheritance, your name, your place in the company. Is that what you want, to live like this?" I looked at James, in a rented suit, laughing with our friends, his eyes lighting up every time they met mine. Then I looked at my parents, rigid in their designer clothes, trapped by expectations they could no longer enforce. I took a breath. "What I want," I said, my voice clear, "is to be happy. James makes me happy. If you can't accept that, maybe we don't need your money, or your approval." My father's face darkened to that telltale shade of purple. "You're no daughter of mine," he spat before storming off. My mother lingered, blinking back tears, then turned and followed him. As they disappeared, James slipped beside me and wrapped his arm around my waist. "You okay?" I leaned into him, watching the past walk away. Never better. That was 6 months ago. Since then, we built something real. James kept working at the garage and started taking night classes for his masters. I hustled in my consulting job, slowly building my own book of clients. We clipped coupons, watched matinees, burnt frozen pizzas, and we were happy. But James had been hiding something, and everything changed on a seemingly ordinary Friday. I came home early with takeout from our favorite Thai place, hoping to surprise him, but the apartment was empty, save for a note on the counter, "Working late at the garage. Love you." Not unusual, but something felt off. Lately, he'd been distant, fielding secretive calls, coming home later than usual. A quiet panic stirred in my chest. Was I losing everything again? Unable to sit still, I drove to the garage with dinner in tow, only to find it dark, empty. His truck was gone. My heart thudded. I called his phone, straight to voicemail. Then came the message, "Mrs. Mitchell, please come to 1875, Highland Avenue immediately. It's about your husband." My blood ran cold. Highland Avenue was in the industrial district, nowhere near his usual haunts. I punched the address into my GPS and sped through the city, dreading every possible scenario. When I arrived, I found a sleek, futuristic building gleaming under the streetlights. A security guard waved me through the gates with a respectful nod. "Mrs. Mitchell, please take the executive elevator to the top floor." Executive elevator? I stepped into the lift, heart hammering, and emerged into a jaw-dropping office, floor-to-ceiling windows, chrome accents, and the skyline laid out beneath us like a dream. At the far end of the room stood James, only, not the James the first knew. Gone were the grease-streaked jeans. He wore a tailored suit that fit him like it had been sewn onto his frame. When he turned, his expression was warm, nervous, and somehow, apologetic. "Charlie," he said softly, using my name the way only he did, "I think it's time I told you everything." Before I could speak, the office doors burst open. And in walked my worst nightmare. My father, my mother, and Bradley Winchester II. "What the hell is going on?" my father barked. "Security said Charlotte was here. What are you doing in the CEO's office, you mechanic?" James stepped forward, calm and poised. "Actually, Mr. Hamilton," he said, "I am the CEO, James Mitchell, founder and chief executive officer of Mitchell Innovations." Silence slammed into the room. My mother sank into a chair. Bradley looked like he'd been hit by a bus. My father, for once in his life, was speechless. "But, you're a mechanic," my mother whispered, stunned. James reached for my hand. "I started with a single garage. Yes, that was my first company, funded by a loan from my engineering professor. But Mitchell Innovations is my real work. We specialize in high-efficiency electric vehicle batteries. We've been developing a prototype for the last year." I stared at him, stunned. You never told me." "I needed to know," James said softly, turning to face me. "When we met, I had just made the Forbes 30 under 30 list. Every woman I dated only cared about my money, my status. But you fell for me when I was just a mechanic. You gave up everything for me. I had to be sure. Mitchell Innovations, my father murmured, his business mind finally catching up. The company that just revolutionized electric vehicle battery technology, the one every major car manufacturer is desperate to partner with? That's you? James nodded. Our market valuation hit $122 billion last week. Not quite Hamilton Industries territory, but we're getting there. I couldn't help but laugh at my father's stunned expression. All those months of looking down on my poor husband, and James had been building an empire right under their noses. And now, James continued, his voice sharpening, I'd like to discuss how you treated your daughter, the woman who, by the way, became one of the largest shareholders in Mitchell Innovations when she married me. My father's face drained of color. Hamilton Industries had been trying for years to break into the electric vehicle market. Having a connection to Mitchell Innovations could have been a game-changer for them. Now, see here, my father blustered, trying to regain control. We were just looking out for Charlotte's best interests. By destroying her? James's voice was smooth but hard as steel. By trying to get her fired? By making her cry herself to sleep for weeks? Daddy, I finally found my voice. You always taught me that Hamiltons never settle for second best. Well, I didn't. I married the most brilliant, kind, and successful man I've ever known, and I did it without knowing a thing about any of this. Charlotte, sweetheart, my mother stepped forward, arms open. We were wrong. We see that now. Please, come home. I glanced around the sleek office, then at James, my wonderful husband, who had let me find my own path, support myself, and grow stronger. I am home, Mom, but if you want to be a part of our lives, it'll have to be on our terms. No more manipulation, no more control. My father looked like he had just swallowed something incredibly bitter. And what about Hamilton Industries? He asked, finally. James smiled. Well, sir, we've had several offers from your competitors for exclusive partnerships, but given the family connection, I thought we might consider a different arrangement, if you're willing to discuss it, as equals. The next hour felt surreal. My father and James spoke business while my mother fussed about our terrible apartment and insisted we move into a proper home. Bradley, predictably, had slinked off somewhere, no doubt nursing his wounded pride. Later that night, back in our tiny apartment, I asked the question that had been burning in my mind. Why keep working at the garage? Why live like this when you have billions? James pulled me close, his arms warm and steady. The garage keeps me grounded. It reminds me where I started, and this apartment, these months with you, they've been the happiest of my life. We made it, ourselves, without silver spoons or trust funds. Tears welled in my eyes. I love you, you sneaky billionaire. He laughed softly. I love you too, you runaway heiress. Life changed after that night, but not in the ways people might expect. We did move, but only to a modest house we picked together. I took on a leadership role at Mitchell Innovations Charitable Foundation, using our resources to help other young entrepreneurs. James still spends time at his original garage, teaching mechanical skills to underprivileged youth. My parents? They're trying. Mom still makes not-so-subtle hints about grandchildren needing trust funds. But Dad's developed a genuine respect for James. Their weekly business meetings often turn into long, heartfelt discussions about everything from classic cars to philosophy. As for me, I finally understood what James meant when he said life's too short to live it on paper. Sometimes, the best things come disguised as broken-down Ferraris and coffee from vending machines. But the best part? Every now and then, when we drive past our old apartment or grab Thai from our favorite takeout place, James still looks at me the same way he did when he was just a mechanic and I was just a rebel heiress. Because in the end, love doesn't care about bank accounts or business empires. It cares about who you are when everything else is stripped away. And we're simply Charlotte and James. A mechanic and a runaway heiress, who found something better than billions. We found each other,